Hi everyone, welcome back to the Heartland Mamas. I'm Heidi Henry. Murray Briel is still on hiatus. But every week we bring you the progressive news and views that you can use right here from the edge of the Great Red Divide. You can find all of our previous podcasts at Heartland Mamas, MAMAS.com, all podcast platforms, and on YouTube. So please like, follow, and share. I'd really appreciate it. So 3 years ago, Murray Briel and I had just come off of our races. We were both candidates in 2018, and we both ran really hard. And we met in 2017 at a Ottawa, Illinois Indivisible meeting when people were coming through Indivisible to talk to us about their positions as progressives. And Murray was a very enchanting candidate. She knew what the problems are. She knew what the solutions were. She knew how to pay for those solutions, and those are the cornerstones or the three most important things I find necessary in any candidate. So I was really excited to meet Murray. We had such a great field of candidates in that primary, and Murray did not primary through, Sarah Dady primaried through. And I did not have an opponent, so I moved on to the general election, which I lost. But when Murray and I kept running into each other when we were collecting signatures to get on the ballot, so we kept running into each other, and finally we just started carrying each other's petitions because I had collected enough signatures to get on one House race, found out that I'd actually been redistricted into another House seat, so I collected all the signatures for that. Then, because I'm a real team player, so when somebody tells me it's for the good of the party, I'm like, sure, you tell me what you need. I'm there for you. You know, whatever you need for the good of the people and the good of the party, I'm there. So they talked me into running for the Illinois State Senate, which you'd have to go back and see that episode to realize what a clusterfuck that was. But I digress. I would have loved to have won, but I didn't. It's just the seat was not drawn for a progressive Democrat. Like I said, I live literally on the edge of the Great Red Divide, right on the edge here in Illinois. We just, have like one toe into the blue portion of Illinois, but we all know each other that are blue, and we're trying to make it more purpley. And I think we're doing a good job. We're making progress, I think. So Murray and I have done a lot of really cool things. We interviewed tons and tons of candidates on our podcast from all over the country. Everything from county board reps to state to Senate candidates, U.S. Senate candidates, and those are all in our previous works. We in 2019, we met at one point 28 different people and spoke to 28 different people that were running for president on the Democratic ticket. Some of them never actually made it onto a ballot, but we met everybody. In fact, you'll often see pictures of me floating around the internet with Joe Biden, who Murray and I met in Davenport, and he was quite charming. I really liked him, and boy, delivered a heck of a foreign policy speech that day, but that's an old episode. We went to a Trump Fest rally thing in Cincinnati, which wow, that's really mind-blowing. So in all my life, I never thought that you'd have to have a pep rally for a president, ever. I thought, this is a dignified office. We don't have pep rallies, but we attended, and we attended kind of in costume, what we thought a Trump supporter would wear. So you'll have to go back and look at those pictures of me in white capris and a red, white, and blue t-shirt with a fanny pack, because I figure if you're a Trump supporter, you probably carry a fanny pack because you never know what you're going to need, right? So, and we talked about counting all the not white people that were there, and there wasn't very many. There was like 50 out of 5,000. And about how they stage everything. Anyway, it was a real eye-opener. I mean, we kind of knew what we were getting into, but Murray and I just came up with a lot of wacky stuff to do. So we've had a lot of fun, and we've met a lot of really cool people. And the Southwest Iowa Democrats, man, what a group that was to meet. Just some really fabulous people. Scott County, Iowa Democrats, we got to go watch the Iowa caucus, which was kind of a cluster too, but just because the computers weren't working, the people running it those people running the caucuses were amazing and dedicated, and the planning that went into it. I doff my hat, if I had one, to them, because they did an amazing job. So the other thing I did, by going back to look at our body of work, and we did take a long break when both Murray and I were moving, I moved next door to my farm. I bought a house right next door to where I already lived, because I love where I live. I love the area I live in, and I love my little horse farm. That's what I've done my whole adult life. I kind of was rebranded as a farmer when I ran for office, even though I hadn't done any actual farming for decades. I train horses for a living and teach people how to ride horses. And they said, well, that sounds too elitist. You can't do that. You can't be that. I'm like, but that's my whole life's work, you know. Yes, and I dropped out of college to do this, you know. So anyway, I went back over my body of work that Murray and I did, and found out that we did 13 shows on gun violence, 13 shows on mass violence. And so I think what I'm going to do is kind of sum up, for a short time. I'm not going to really go into it today. Just how dreadful it is. Number one, how glad I am I don't have grade school kids. My children are adults. I do not have any grandchildren. Doesn't look like I'm going to get any soon. I've got one child that's in chiropractic college, so she's super busy. And then the other that he likes his single life, you know, toys and good job and nice house, you know. So he's down for that right now, and I'm not my job to change. I love him just the way he is, and whatever he decides is fine with me. But in going back over my notes from the past 3 years and listening to some of our previous podcasts on gun violence in America, and both of us were Everytown endorsed. So Moms Demand endorsed candidates. And that's really important to me, because I'll never forget the day of Sandy Hook. I will never forget, as long as I live, driving my daughter to school that day, because school was almost out for the year. And I took her to school because she had a project, a big art project or something to turn in. So I had to drive her that day, and I needed my car, so she didn't have a car to drive. And the school was on partial lockdown, and I had no idea why. I had no idea that Adam Lanza just went and blew away a whole bunch of little bitty kids, little bitty ones, in their classroom. But I'll never forget that feeling of seeing the police force there, the little Seneca police force there. I mean, it's a little town, so they don't have a lot of officers, and all the extra people at the school outside just checking things over, making sure everything was okay. And later on that day, how comforted I was to know that they were all there. Steve Haynes, my daughter's athletic director, was standing right out in front of the front gate at Seneca High School. And he's a big guy, and he gives you a very imposing stare, even though he's a really nice man. And all I thought is nobody would mess with him, was my thought driving in. And then later that day, I was like, oh, thank God he was there, because there but for the grace of God go I and my children, right? We're all a hair's breadth away from this catastrophe. In this country, there are more guns than there are people. And I know a lot of people with guns. I've had a lot of guns over my lifetime. You never have just one. You always have multiples. I grew up in a hunting family. I grew up loving to shoot clays for fun. And I can't imagine, and I have sisters. I have 5 sisters and 2 brothers. Some of us are really competitive with one another when we're shooting. I always got to be the best, right? So that's why I'm a horse trainer, so I can beat people in the show ring. That's just my job, man, you know? So, but I don't know anybody that has just one gun. Everybody has multiples. And most of the people I know a few people. Like I always tell people, when I moved out to the country from the Chicago suburbs 35 years ago, I moved out here to increase the size of my horse farm, to have some peace and quiet. I moved to the country for a quiet life. And then it dawned on me around the time that Obama was elected, that people moved to the country by me to burn their garbage, let their dogs run loose, and blow stuff up. And that happens all the time. I mean, you can't just sit in your backyard without rat-a-tat-tat, rat-a-tat-tat, rat-a-tat, and people are just shooting like crazy, and it's nowhere near hunting season, but boy, it was going on all day today. And I'm really close to the National Guard. It was not the National Guard. It was my neighbors. And I keep thinking, y'all have less than an acre of land and no backstop. I hope you know what you're shooting at, and there could have been drinking involved, So I'm not trying to be judgy. I'm just thinking, when we got neighbors behind us, and I mean 12 acres away, we stopped shooting on our own property because we considered it to be too dangerous for them and possibly annoying for them. And we wanted to be good neighbors. So we just stopped doing that. That's why there's firing ranges. So you can go and do that at the Sportsman's Club at Wilmington, which we used to be members of, thinking about joining again because we loved it there. And there's all kinds of places you can go and shoot safely, and you don't have to worry about disturbing your neighbor's peace and quiet, right? Or how far your bullet travels, and if it's going to hit some hapless animal out of season. So, but that's gun culture in America. And we did a whole show about my theory on the Wild West myth, and shout out to Adam Kinzinger, who used that on national television today. Gee, Adam, when I accused you of buying into the Wild West myth, so glad that you decided to finally use one of my comments. There's no love lost here for Adam Kinzinger. Standing up for the January 6th commission does not redeem his 98% with Trump voting record, and the fact that he's a disgraceful human being that would take away your health care in a heartbeat. So, but he did use my Wild West myth analogy. So I got looking into some of it today, and there's some deeper stuff here at work. And of course, we all know that. We all know that Adam Lanza bought his Bushmaster to get his man card back. And we do know that there's this white male fragility that Murray and I did the show on. And not all the mass shooters are white, but they're fairly light-skinned usually and would fall into the passing or white category. They're young or middle-aged. And a lot of times they claim that they're forced into celibacy. They have relationship issues. They've been stalkers. They've committed animal abuse. They all fall into this profile, right? And all the recent shootings that we had may not have had the same exact ideology of replacement theory, but they all had that same level of angst about school, work, relationships, financial stress, whatever. It all comes together at the point of a gun. And, I was thinking about the things, what could we do to make it better? Well, it's hard to undo the conditioning, the grooming that's been done over and over and over again by the right for their own children, to tell them that the way to solve everything, hello, Florida, I'm looking at you with your stand your ground law, you solve everything by the point of a gun. When my dad was dying, my brother was kind of ribbing him about, he used to take my brother to Westerns all the time, to the movies all the time. And my brother has this amazing statistical mind. So he was thinking about all the people Marshall Dillon killed, or how many people died on Gunsmoke over the years. And it was over 300 people, because that Wild West myth teaches you and taught us as kids that everything is solved with a gun, right? If somebody makes you mad, somebody takes something of yours, somebody comes on your property, somebody pisses you off, you shoot them and they're out of your life. They don't show you the carnage after, and the trial, and the prosecution and the trial and all of that goes along with it. They don't show you that part. And in Gunsmoke and all the Westerns when I was a kid, it was the good guy shooting the bad guys all the time. That's where the good guy with the gun myth comes in, and where we saw that myth fall apart in Uvalde, Texas last week. Those children did not survive because a good man with a gun was present, did they? No. So these violent, entitled, young and middle-aged men purchase these guns at a very young age. Now, let me tell you, I don't know how you were at 18, but I was not the same person at 18 that I was at 21. So if you could up the ages for a long gun, now it used to be that you could get a rifle when you were 18 because you were going to go hunting for your family to put food on the table. You don't need to do that anymore. You don't need to do that anymore. Nobody does. Well, some people still do it. Like I said, I came from a hunting family, but, you don't need to buy a rifle at the age of 18, and you certainly don't need an assault-style weapon or semi-automatic weapon. You don't need a huge amount of clips. I mean, my dad used to always say, you get 3 bullets, 1 to miss, 1 to hit, 1 to finish it off. That's all you need. And if you need more than 3 bullets, you're a terrible hunter and you shouldn't hunt. Right? And, I know somebody who does hunt feral hogs, and they do use a Bushmaster when they hunt feral hogs, which I know are terrible, and tear up everybody's farms. And they were let go on purpose in a lot of areas. But here's the thing. They could shoot it with something else. They don't need that gun. They should be able to do it in 2 to 3 shots. Right? They don't need a huge magazine. I mean, what are you going to do? Blow a whole bunch of holes in Mr. Piggy? You don't need to. And you certainly wouldn't shoot a deer with one. You'd blow it to bits. Heck, they had to get DNA samples from these bits of children to be able to identify them. Can you imagine? There was no open caskets, I'm certain. There's just a whole bunch of little pieces in a box. That's what happened to those kids. Little pieces, because those bullets are meant to explode on impact and just blow you to pieces. And that's what happened to those kids. So if you're out there hunting with one, your dinner is going to be in pieces instead of a whole hunk of meat, right? Which is okay if you're making hamburgers, but if you're trying to make a roast, that's a really bad idea. And I'm sorry, that's a terrible analogy, but that's true. That's true. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about, the masculine solution for angst, for teenage angst at 18, for feeling that you're bullied, for feeling that you are forced into celibacy, to your business failing, to not having enough money, to not being able to meet your financial obligations, to still living at home with your parents, to not being able to find a job or keep a job or hold a job, or whatever. And in the realm of a lot of these people, their answer, their outlet is video games. Now, I'm not going to slam video games. There are a lot of problem solving and good things in video games too. But also in video games, the solution to everything is to kill it, to shoot it, to get your kill count up high, and then hope somebody's got a healing potion or something for you in case something bad happens to you. But you don't come back to life in real life. You're dead, you stay dead. That's how it is. That's how that works. So I saw Senator Chris Murphy on television this morning, and I don't watch a lot of TV, but I was so glad I happened to catch him. And I'm sure you've seen him. He's from Connecticut. He made a huge plea after Newtown for universal background checks. Every time there's a mass shooting, the man his heart is torn in two again, all over again, as he pleads with the Republicans and some Democrats, Manchin, I'm looking at you, to come to the table and let's do something substantive that can really help. So he was talking about the Florida law. Now, in Florida, when Rick Scott was still the governor, God, DeSantis is terrible. Rick Scott was also terrible. Rick Scott looks like in Indiana Jones when the guy is melting after he sees the Ark of the Covenant. That's what he reminds me of. Every time I look at him, like, ooh, that was an awful scene. Anyway, so under Rick Scott, all 3 branches of the Florida legislature were Republican. But after the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas shootings, they got together and they were able to raise the rifle age to 21. So the sense and sensibility that happens as you mature and your brain doesn't finish forming, but is much more formed. It doesn't finish forming until you're in your mid-20s. But the parts that help you be able to cope are forming between 18 and 21. It helps you cope with stresses a little bit better. So they were able to raise that age to 21, to invest in some mental health care, to improve their background checks, to limit the size of magazines, and to ban bump stocks. Now, if we just did that on a federal level, if the Republicans, including Rick Scott, that sit in the Senate, would just say, hey, This worked in Florida, even though they had that stupid stand your ground rule. Let's do it countrywide, see what happens. You know, I mean, really, what have they got to lose? Florida is about the most Republican place on the planet, right? All the crazies move there. All the crazies live there. Some of them visit there. Oh, you couldn't pay me to go there right now. But what you need to know is that they made a model gun, set of gun laws that seem to be working and seem to be helping in Florida since the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas massacre. And I think we could use that model to drive home something finally at a federal level. Now, look, we've got a lot of stuff going on here. A lot of stuff. I mean, since Reagan really gutted mental health care in the United States and Nixon helped bring us for-profit health care, we're in a pickle right now. We've got some huge issues between the January 6th Commission, which I understand is going to be televised coming up like the 9th of June or something, in prime time. So be sure and tune in, and that'll be interesting. We'll do a whole show on that. Hopefully Murray will be back. So I'm sure I have to work, so I'll have to record it and watch it later. But because when you teach writing lessons, everybody's all comes after school and after work. So I am slammed from about 3 o'clock till about 9 o'clock at night, every night. And that's my job, and I love my job. So, and of course the abortion issue, which I did a show on, and I apologize for the audio on that. I think I've got it fixed today. And there's a lot of things. And every election we say, this is the most important election. This is the most important election of your lifetime. I'm telling you that this is crucial. We are going to have women fleeing the South because they have no reproductive rights, they have no bodily autonomy, and they're going to be fleeing from there to come up here either for care. And some states are going to make spontaneous miscarriages prosecutable by law, and women are not going to the hospital right now for care after a miscarriage. This is going to kill women that didn't have an abortion on purpose, that wanted to have a baby, and this is going to kill them. So I think we're going to see a mass exodus of women migrating to safer areas of the country, wherever that is. Certainly leaving Nebraska and Louisiana and Texas and Florida and Mississippi. You know, they're going to have to get out of there for their own safety. So we've got that coming up. We've got to be prepared to help these women, and we've got to stand strong and vote blue all the way down the ticket, flip your ballot over and go all the way down the ticket on the backside. Because, ladies and gentlemen, if we don't get a handle on this, we're sunk. It's not going to be just gun legislation and abortion legislation, but, you know, we're starting Pride Month here in another couple of days. They're coming for that next. You know, there is no going back. Once they take away the barrier between church and state and we become a theocracy instead of a democracy, we're screwed. You know, if we don't believe their way, their version of whatever, we're all in big trouble. So we need to make sure that you go to vote.org today, tonight, right now, and check your voter registration status. Give vote.org on a card, print it on a piece of paper, give it to people all over the place. I have business cards made up with it in English and Spanish to hand out to people to say, check your voting status. You can register to vote online. You can see who your people are that you need to contact about these laws that need to be done. And you can see who you can support through the election. These are really important things that you need to get out and do right now. Have a plan. Make a plan for election day. Make a plan for early voting. Early voting has started. Get in your car, pick up your neighbors, go to the courthouse and vote. Vote, 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 vote. Pick your top candidate in the primary and make a plan for election day this November. I mean, you have to. This is urgent. This is critical mass, and you have to be the one to help carry the load. I'm getting old. I've carried this load a long time. I've been fighting for women's rights, since 1972 or 73 in there when we were talking about ERA. And I've made every protest, every rally, made the signs, made the donations, wore the pink hat, done everything I possibly could. And it wasn't enough. 50 years later, they're taking away my rights. Don't let that happen to you. Don't let it happen to another sister, another brother, another person. They don't deserve it. You don't deserve it. So you need to get out there, and vote.org is the easiest way. I've got everybody's information out here, but that's the easiest one to remember and the easiest one to share. So I want to thank you for tuning in. Again, I'm Heidi Henry with the Heartland Mamas, MAMAS.com, to find all of our previous works. You can find us on YouTube and every podcast platform. I'd like to thank you for tuning in, and thank you for celebrating our third anniversary with me today. I'm so excited for our next chapter going forward, our next year. So thank you again so much. Have a great day, everybody, from the edge of the Great Red Divide. It's Heidi.